Xiao Pan slips out the back with colleagues, while Uncle Dan becomes a supermarket marshal hero, launching a fierce counterattack with available resources as the killer falls into a huge hide-and-seek trap. Meanwhile, assassin Wenzun arrives, sees the horror, and is swiftly taken down by Uncle Dan's long gun before reacting. Wenzun tried to profit but was caught by Teddy, nearly becoming a drumstick. Uncle Dan vanished again using terrain. Uncle Dan heats a tin can, presses it on his wounds to stop bleeding, then puts a flamethrower on a shelf, using X-mates as arrow riding tools. With the assassins hesitant to approach, Uncle Dan sneakily makes his way behind them, delivering yet another shocking drill surprise. Watching his mates get quietly sent away, Big Beard is about to blow a fuse, firing randomly like a spraying hose at the slight. Uncle Dan seizes the chance, jumps out to strike, but Big Beard's head is iron tough. Big Beard fights fiercely, remains standing after a dozen stabs, pushes Uncle Dan down and attacks his wound. At the critical moment, Uncle Dan has a clever idea and uses broken glass for a surprise counterattack. Thankfully, he kills his opponent. Xiao Pang, worried about Uncle Dan, rushes back to motivate him, but gets shot in the leg. They quickly hide behind a shelf, totally exposed, entering a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. Uncle Dan swiftly moves to draw fire, successfully lowering the enemy, snagging a few gas cans along the way and making a dash for the staff cafe. The assassins follow closely. At this moment, Xiao Pang flips the switch at the distribution box, instantly lighting up the supermarket and turning the leftovers in the microwave behind the assassins into gourmet dinner. Now that the assassins have been wiped out, only Teddy is left. As he readies his weapon, Xiao Pang gets ready for a surprise strike. Surprise! Teddy gets shot first, but not by Xiao Pang. Noticing the nail, he realizes Uncle Dan intervened just in time. Teddy attempts to fight back, but can't muster the strength, as Uncle Dan swiftly finishes him off with a nail gun. No unnecessary dramacy, but the story isn't over yet. All debts remain. 3 days later, Uncle Dan arrives in Moscow, breezes into Pushkin's villa, outwits the god's second nature. Pushkin, blissfully unaware in the shower, only realizes danger when Uncle Dan is already in the room, but this time, he doesn't strike. He simply leaves the weapon on the sink and walks away. The man is baffled. As he picks up the gun, he suddenly notices the water from below is sending. The water hits the wiring just right, and in an instant, it's waves crashing, leaving everything back in peace. Uncle Dan meets Celine again in Sokyo. She's healthy, got a new job, and started a new life. Although she's not sure what transpired, she expresses her gratitude to Uncle Dan, who believes helping friends is just the right thing. Subtitle: A hero fights evil. Uncle Dan meddles a lot, just a ride-hailing driver. When a dazed girl gets in the car, Uncle Dan instinctively takes a glance back, while a man knocks on the window and drops a tip for her. He told her to safely take the girl home. Uncle Dan left without much thought, but soon after, the girl starts sobbing in the car, obviously haunted by her experiences. Uncle Dan senses right away that she's been mistreated by some scum. Suddenly, she knocks on the rich kid's door, saying her tip barely covers gas. The blonde scoffs and gives Uncle Dan a black card, telling him to go ahead. Uncle Dan isn't here for the money. He's already taken the girl to the hospital, realizing these thugs drugged and violated her. He initially wanted to give them a chance to redeem themselves, but they are too cocky, completely oblivious to the threat standing. The blonde even locks the door himself, signaling the start of Uncle Dan's revenge countdown. He didn't go for the kill, just gave them a lesson. But these guys attempted to resist, only to end up as cautionary tales in 29 seconds. The last in this group's terrified, as Uncle Dan calmly snaps 4 fingers, keeping the right hand for a 5-star review. Uncle Dan is just an ordinary Uber driver, with 2 hobbies: helping friends despite the odds and reading. Bookstore owner's daughter he often visits is his close friend, but she's kidnapped by traffickers. Uncle Dan sets off on a rescue. On the train, he spots the kidnappers and offers the man a chance, but this guy sneers, sending his crew to teach him a lesson. Uncle Dan kicks off his timer as usual. It's clear this guy has never encountered someone so intense before. The opportunity slips away as the train enters a tunnel, and the man entirely vanishes. Soon after, the concerned owner sees her unharmed daughter at the law office. Coming home at night, Uncle Dan notices the lights are on, raising his suspicions that something's off. He cautiously enters the house, hearing water from the bathroom. A familiar scent tells him it's Susan, his soul friend. Susan stops by on her way somewhere. She needs to investigate something in Belgium. Just days before, an agent returned home to find his injured wife. Then several killers show up, ruthlessly kill the woman, and pin the man to a chair. They always wear disposable gloves, perfect for avoiding fingerprints. They shove a handgun in the man's mouth and send him on his way. To find the culprit, Susan investigates personally. They chat on the road, then Uncle Dan says goodbye. Later, Susan finds unidentified powder on the table, spots an odd ballistic path, and asks old Joe to investigate the victim's records. While entering the elevator, they unexpectedly meet a group of young folks, unwittingly joining them as they conveniently reach the 16th floor. Susan plans to head back to her room, but as she opens the door, two killers burst in, smashing her head and sending her crashing to the floor. One of them rummages through her bag, and Susan recognizes them as the young people from the elevator. Despite her intel background, years of experience aren't for nothing. She fights desperately, though they claim to be robbing her. It's clear they are out to kill her. Despite Susan's all-out struggle, she ultimately can't escape her doom. Soon, Uncle Dan receives a call about his friend's grim fate, making him furious beyond measure. He hurried to Susan's home. Her husband gave all her belongings to Uncle Dan, knowing only he could manage this. As she finishes her tale, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Uncle Dan's next adventure will be epic. Stay tuned.